Hey, test one, two. Okay, thank you, thank you. Just had a power failure. Very strange. Like for 2 seconds, the power went off. It's enough to make you have to reset everything. It's a lot to reset. Okay, just making sure the mic's working. Welcome everyone to the Pro Trade Room Plus. We're here for ISM manufacturing, also the oil inventories and natural gas storage. My name is Lee Goldstein. I'm the trading director at 10-Minute Trades. Please remember that all the trades we discuss are for educational purposes. It is possible to lose money trading futures, so trade carefully, please. Okay, and let's get started. Quite a bit going on, so you can see that there is that 9:45 report. The first report is actually called Final Services. Then at 10 o'clock, which is the real report that we're here for ISM Services. I do want to welcome everybody that's watching us on YouTube. Thank you for watching. If you hit that like button, that would be nice. And also, you could hit the notification bell to know the next time we'll be streaming. So thanks, everybody. And we are going to stay in the room for our regular members. We'll stay in the room for gas and oil. It's a long morning. All right, so let's talk about ISM Services. As you can see, as I was saying, there's quite a few elements that make up this report. There will be that 9:45 report, and they're looking for reasonably bullish news. The only thing that I noticed something different. All of a sudden, Redbook is at a different time. Redbook used to be, if my memory is correct, 8:55. It never used to be with ISM Services. Now, Redbook is one of those beige, it's like the beige book, those Fed book, the Fed, those regional Fed reports. That's the best way I would explain them. You've got the Red Book is pretty minor. The other one that we sometimes used to trade, Beige Book, which was yesterday, and it really had very little impact on the market. Initially, anyway, it was not an immediate trade based on the news. But Redbook, I would bet anything that's changed. If that's actually at the time they're saying it is, that's definitely not when it used to be. I'm positive that Redbook was pretty sure it was 8:55 in the morning. And I thought, what's strange, it says year over year. I'm going to have to look into that. I don't think it has any effect on this report, so it's not an issue. It's just a little bit of a weirdness. All right, so let's look at the DMM and see what's going on with ISM Services. So ISM Services has been trading pretty well, definitely. It's a family trade. It's been working well on a gold breakout, and we have a bond breakout also using ZF. If people want to trade bonds on it, you can for a little less risk when gold is volatile. Why is gold volatile? So one of the issues that you want to be aware of with gold is it's near the high. All right. So it's not so close to the high. It's $7 away, but just out of curiosity, looking at a daily chart, 2580, I do believe that gold all-time highs are here. I'm pretty sure that last week, it's maybe 2 weeks ago, it made an all-time high. Remember how hard it struggled to get above 2,500, not 25, but 2,500. So gold, it's volatile. I mean, that's the reality. The market is opening. So there's no hesitation if someone wants to take a little bit less risk and trade bonds in your main account. If that's what you want to do, you can do that. The gold setup has been working. Like I said, it's been working pretty well. Let's look at August because August did not work. And I'm trying to think if I remember correctly. Yeah. Uh, it's noted also in the DMM. The market was such an overnight sell-off that I might have confused the two reports. We might not have traded ISM Services last month, and I was saying we didn't trade ISM Manufacturing, but it may have been services that we didn't trade because of the market volatility. Gold was really, look, and you notice it was under 2,500 also, but it was moving very volatile. Let's see what we did. We can tell by watching the video. And no, we did not trade gold live because of the market volatility. We sat the trade out. Stoic Capital, the reports are not related. It's not a forecast in any way, shape, or form for what happens on Friday's jobs report. Someone was asking on YouTube if the ADP report has a bearing on Friday's jobs report, an influence, and it does not. The results are not related. You could have a great ADP report and you could have a terrible jobs report, and the reverse is opposite. But the one thing I think that I would say is that I think everyone expects a negative jobs report, and the ADP report was quite negative. But I think the only thing related is that everybody seems to think the job market is taking a hit right now. But no, they're not necessarily related. Just like the API Tuesday oil report is not necessarily related to the Wednesday 10:30 oil report. So as I was talking, we had a great move on ZF last month, and gold, we didn't trade it, but you can still look at the quality of the move. Sometimes a market is too volatile to trade. It's rare that we sit out. It's pretty rare. And you could see it had a whipsaw that actually hit the first target and reversed. It may not have been possible for everybody to get out with a profit because of the quickness of that move. Bonds had a great move. What I'm going to do is trade gold in my Buellnox account. It's a breakout. And again, you can try to reduce risk, right? You can try to reduce risk by trading just one contract if you wanted to. I mean, look, today the market is volatile, right? You have to say the market is volatile, but it's not like out of control. It doesn't have that out of control volatility that we saw last week. The market is pushing higher on gold. It's pushing higher on gold almost enough to make me want to trade, which is rare, only in one direction. And that's to the long side on gold. I'm expecting negative news again on this report, just like we had on the ISM manufacturing report. What's the risk of trading in one direction? There's really no extra risk. You're just risking missing a trade. And it's not the end of the world if that happens. But every now and then, I have done that. We did it. I forget what report we recently traded only in one direction. because of gold's overnight and the morning's volatility, meaning not so much that it was out of control every nanosecond, but it was up $35 last week. That's a lot. I mean, even being up 20 today is a lot. If we stay away from the high and we maintain like a $5 distance, then that gives us room to have a trade that will test the high and not destroy the trade. But sometimes when gold is at the high for a trade, it doesn't go that much higher. Sometimes. And that's why occasionally you might want to take a gold trade in one direction. And it's not something we really ever did. It's just, but we're seeing very unusual markets. These are extreme markets. They're not your grandmother's market, from 20 years ago. These are some of the most volatile markets I can remember. And I don't always mean, like I was saying, in terms of ticks per second, as much as general movement in the instruments before and after trades and news. It's just extreme levels. And that sometimes can affect things. So I'm going to use, I don't use the exact targets usually on the DMM. We have a bracket of 20. We've got targets. Targets can be anywhere. Look at the size of the moves. But it's also a report that can whip. So you don't want to be ultra greedy on your targets. On gold, the DMM has 15 and 30. If it's the only event you're trading, if you're just trading gold and not trading anything else, you can do a full concentration on one trade. You can use a second target with a bigger target and manage your way out of the trade. So that's certainly not unreasonable. So I think that's what I'm going to do on ISM Services. I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to just trade gold on Buellnox today. If it hits my first target, my stop will move to break even -5. The stop is 20. And it is a breakout, GC breakout. So I will test our brackets. A 20 bracket is a big bracket for a morning gold trade, but it's only a half hour after the open also. So let's see where our brackets shape up here. Okay. Again, you have potential magnet trades also, right? You definitely have potential magnet trades. This could be a pretty fast trade. So you could have slippage on this trade. So it might not be the greatest opportunity to try to trade the magnet. The high of the day is the magnet. That is a magnet. And I believe that this report is probably going to test that level. I think that there is some sense in taking this trade on the long side only with gold. And I'm thinking about it. Because what's the worst thing that happens? Is like I said, you don't get a fill. I'm not going to go cry in a corner if I don't get a fill. I think the news is going to be negative, and I usually don't trade that way, but I think it's going to push gold to a test of the high. So let's say you wanted to do that. How would you do it? So we have a feature in the software. Now that 945 trade just came out, so watch, gold is responding to it. And look, here's what's interesting. That news is turning out to be positive, right? Positive. So I'm going to leave things normal because, you try to outthink the market always outthinks you. I'm just going to trade normally. But I want to show you if you wanted to trade in one direction, there is a direction, if I could find it, somewhere in here. There's a direction button right there. In optional, direction, both, you would just set it to long only. Okay? Long only or short only, whichever you want. All right? So let me double check my setup. So on the breakout, we've got 959.59 is our trigger. The bracket's 20. You have targets anywhere between really 10 and 50 is not unreasonable. 10 and 80 is not unreasonable on this report. There's been some big spikes. All right. Target one stop move, break even -5, and my stop is 20. So our breakout is ready to go. And Buell knocks on that one. Now we have a secondary setup if anybody is interested in trading bonds. Bonds traded nicely last month. I'm just shrinking down our news here to the events that are actually taking place. So ZF, you could trade it. It's a breakout and it would be 959.58. And the bracket is 8. And we have targets of 8 and 15. And the stop is 15. And again, I like to protect my first target with most of my trades. It's the way that I trade generally. And this is ZF. And then what I would look at is the bracket size for managing the trade. When you enable a trade that has 0 time, it prints your brackets once it calculates them. Okay. Now this is popping right above the high, which I don't love, but bonds are in a pretty tight range. If they weren't in such a tight range, it would be more concerning, but they're in a pretty tight range, so it's possible that this news could make them move. I mean, you saw how they moved last month. All right. And then what I would do also, it's quite an active morning. I would set up, let's put our time back to 0, make sure we did everything back to 9. Put the time correct. It's 9:59.58, 9:59.58 on that trigger time. It's a 10 o'clock event. Bracket of 8, position 1's a 1, position 2's a 1, and then you have targets anywhere between 6 and 20, I would say. Stop is 15, break even -2. Labeled ZF breakout, apply it, okay it. Okay, and that trade's ready. Then I would consider gold after the news, right? So I'd set up my third strategy, the same one on my breakout chart, but I'd make it a reversal continuation, just one position. Again, if there's an opportunity, I would look for it. 20, 25 tick target. With a 20 tick stop. Reverse continuation, time doesn't matter. One position, 25 target, 20 tick stop. Label it reverse continuation or REV, I always put on it. And then I keep it on the same account that I'm trading the breakout on, so I don't have to change charts to trade it. And then when you enable a continuation trade, you get your buttons, and it's a discretionary entry if you think the market reaction to the news warrants it. Okay? Anybody have any questions? Okay. I know that people had good bond trades last month on this report. It was probably a breakout for all last month. We looked at August. Let's look at July. Now this was July 3rd. So this was holiday trading. And we have looked at an ES breakout on this setup also. Just shooting through a lot of videos, that's what that is. So this was July 3rd. It's a pretty important report that it still would have movement during a holiday. People were working July 3rd. Now it shot up. You could see that it shot up. It didn't fill my first target, and I brought my target down to try and get a small profit. It had a big move, but it looks like there was a fair amount of slippage also. There was all negative news on that report. It was all negative news. But then it continued up for a bit. Right here, continued up, and then 3 minutes later, it pulled back a bit. But watch, I think it kept going. Oh, that's all I have recorded. We also tried a YM setup that did not work well at all. YM can be very uneven on some of these reports. Ironically, YM had a really good move on, let me check my notes. I forget which report was it. ISM Manufacturing, the YM, had a very good move. I have a crazy journal with tons and tons and tons of notes. All right, let's look at one more, just for fun. Let's look at let's look at a year ago. A year ago, let me see if I have it. ISM a year ago. This was October. Now I may not be able to show the videos acting a little strange for some reason. It won't. It will not get to the point. Let me see if it'll get there. Okay, here's October. We had bonds and we had gold. So we have had we've had consistency on this report. We've had a couple of different second events, second setups, I should say. ZN, ES, ZF. Gold can be choppy. It hit the first target and pulled back. That's why I use the break even on this report. It can be choppy. Okay. Bonds were choppy that month also. Now that was a long time ago. That was October. The market's very, very different from the way they are now. Very different. I think I can show you one more. I had COVID on this one. Didn't trade. I was feeling so sick that morning. I remember it was May, and I think it was a phenomenal move. Anytime you're sick or you say to yourself, I'm not trading today, I have a headache, it's a phenomenal move always. The biggest move ever. Yeah, it was the biggest move ever. Ever. It was incredible. I remember people had a very good trade room that day. It was a great trade. That was a monster move. So maybe you have to have COVID. Maybe that's the best way to trade this is with COVID. ISM with, ISM without, with and without COVID. Now there's a new strain of COVID too. There's a new vaccine I see. But we're not going to go there today. Not going to go there. I had COVID, I believe, for the first time ever in May. I never had it before. Well, at least never tested for it. All right, so we haven't had a lot of pre-trade movement. So there's room for gold to move in any direction. I think that that's definitely true, that gold could move any direction. So ISM, I'm just listening to news in my headset also. I listen to Financial Juice Pro, right? Financial Juice Pro has a squawk box. If you're a serious news trader, Financial Juice Pro is a must. It's a must. It's a fantastic tool. Fantastic tool. Great calendar, great squawk box. Years ago and currently you could pay hundreds of dollars a month for a squawk box, and Financial Juice Pro is nowhere near that. It's very reasonable and it's a great product. And they have some other products that are quite good also. Tick Strike, a really interesting indicator. The biggest, my biggest loss of a tool was fasteconomicnews.com. They used to have a product called, oh, Doc knows what, I always forget what it's called, News Spike or something like that. It was a Forex news trading program. They had the greatest news website I've ever seen. It was phenomenal with information, what reports traded with what. Oh, it was such great research. And they went out of business. It's been probably maybe 2 years already. I tried to reach out to them to see if anything was going to happen with the website and never really got a response. News Forex News Gun or something like that it was called. Now that's a non I would cancel gold. I would cancel gold. I didn't. I probably should have because it was a non-move. It was a non-move. I'm combining my orders. Okay, it hit my first target, hit the first target, so small profit. You shouldn't have lost. Now, bonds, I'd get my stop to safety. That's what I would do. Very small move. Get that first target, just take that tick. All right, now you can trail if bonds go down further. All right. And if it does nothing, then you haven't lost anything. You've hit your first target for a small profit. Very, very small move. Maybe mixed news is part of the issue here. We'll look at that news in a minute. Still in bonds here. If it were live, I would go to bottom of the candle, bottom of that candle, and if it takes me out here, I'd probably let it. I very surprised at the minimal move. And see, it was short, not long. So trading directionally, you think you're outsmarting the market, but more often than not, the market outsmarts you. Taking that a directional trade didn't really make sense. Now, maybe there is a short here. I need to see the news. So the employment was the only off the result. It was the only, if you miss that little that click by just like the tiniest tick, it screws up the news. It screws up the screen. So it looks like gold is pushing down. It wants to push down on this news. Bonds are not done. Now, bonds often move with gold. So I wouldn't necessarily jump out of that bond trade yet, because sometimes they move with gold. Now, the ISM news was mostly positive. So that's why I don't try to trade the way I think it's going to be. And look, it stopped me out because it pulled back and hit my break-even minus. You know, if you didn't protect your stop, then you could have had a pretty decent breakdown, right? You could have had a pretty decent breakdown. So we made a little bit of money because it hit our first target. Bonds still have a profitable trade going on, and they had not a terrible move. It's not gigantic. Remember, my charts are spread apart. My charts are spread apart. So bonds had a decent move, but not as big as it looks. It's not as big as it looks. Now, as they go down, I would trail now. Top of the candle, previous candle. Top of the previous candle is where I'm putting my stop. Sander Wright probably trailed too tight. Yeah, yep. It was easy to trail too tight on this. You know, turn off your breakout and gold on gold. I did not like that gold move. That was not a good ISM Services gold move. It was not normal. That's why I thought of canceling it. But I didn't, you notice I didn't rush to cancel it. I wasn't fanatically trying to cancel it. As it was, it turned out to be a target one winner. If you had not moved the stop, you could have taken advantage of a bigger move. Now we are going to stick around. I want to thank everyone for watching on YouTube. We're going to close our YouTube stream. Thanks for watching on YouTube. Hit the like button on your way out, and I really appreciate you joining us today.